This is AJ and Steven. First episode from 2023, bringing you more news from around the globe. Steven, how's your new year been?
It's been okay so far. I had a birthday, so that was nice and calm, thankfully.
How
But
was that? You turned 32. How does that
nothing
feel?
changes. Nothing ever
No.
changes. People who
Uh,
think things change in birthdays are the weird ones.
I guess I'm the weird one. I just turned 30. I'm
Yeah,
still not over it.
you should be. Nothing changed. You're still AJ.
It's just a 30-year-old AJ.
So,
It feels weird, bud.
it's just a number indicating how many times a rock spun around a star. That's it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Anyways, the first article we have is from Greece, where we have what has been called a farcical trial, where two rescue workers, Sean Binder and Sarah Mardini, are facing trial for rescuing the refugees and migrant workers at the risk of drowning while crossing the border. Sean is a trained rescue diver. He's originally a German citizen, and Sarah, she is a Syrian refugee who has been in Europe since 2018. And in fact, her and her sister Yusra, their story inspired a Netflix movie called Swimmers. They stand trial together with 22 other people from the search and rescue NGO that they volunteered for. This trial is actually showcasing how adamant Greek authorities are to deter humanitarian assistance and discourage the migrants from seeking safety on country shores, something an increasing number of European countries are doing. Sarah and Sean have been in custody since 2018 August, and they have spent more than 100 days in prison before being released on bail. This trial has more or less put their life on hold for the past 4 years, and if they are found guilty, they can be found guilty of espionage, forgery, misdemeanor charges. All can carry up to 8 years in prison, and they are at a risk of facing up to 20 years of maximum prison sentence. What do you think about that, Stephen? I know,
What?
like, we have been talking about the wall, the Mexican border, and all that, but how about this? When they're putting their
Yeah.
own two citizens for extending humanitarian aid to people in need?
Is that the crime? I was trying to find the crime in what you were saying.
That's the crime.
Fun.
So essentially, the government is putting them on trial for espionage, forgery, smuggling, fraud, membership of criminal organization, money laundering, and misdemeanor because they were helping migrant people who were trying to seek asylum and they're trying to escape the not so good conditions of where they belong. Most of them trying to flee the war and the unrest,
It's just
and they were
classic
risking their lives
fascism.
to do that.
What are you gonna do? Fascists are gonna fasci.
I don't know,
And
man.
those who
I
want to
know
stay in
words.
power do so by subjugating everyone else. And I suppose if your citizens make you look bad by helping people in the world and you don't want to help those people, might as well put your citizens in prison too.
Yeah, seems like typical fascist regime.
What the fuck, Europe? Wait, what country is this?
Greece.
What the fuck, Greece? Fun times that we're living in.
Yes, it's just so bizarre. You have the EU as a union where people are still migrating from one country to another, seeking better opportunities. How is that different from someone from outside gaining a shot at a better life? It's just because they did not pop out of a vagina inside the EU borders, pretty much.
Yep. The reasons that we hear against it are the classic ones that come from privilege or ignorance. Well, they should have done it the right way, as if there's a right way to flee war and
Exactly.
oppression.
Here's the point, right? There is this narrative that you should be doing the right way,
hmm
but there are hardly ways left to doing it the right way when more and more authorities are trying to limit
hmm
the ways by which people can actually choose the right ways on paper. These are not just people looking to smuggle or anything. These are people trying to flee uncertain times. They are actually risking their lives for better opportunities for their families. Most of them are just fleeing wars or whatever unrest is going on in their respective countries. I feel like it's high time people need to actually be proactive about discussing immigration rather than curbing it. Rather than extending humanitarian aid and everything, people should be encouraged to immigrate rather than creating these bottlenecks, which just exacerbates the entire process in general. Moving on, we have news from Canada, where foreigners will now be banned from buying homes.
Oh no.
Canadian authorities have proposed a 2-year ban on some foreigners buying homes in Canada, which has now come into effect. As of January 1st, the ban prohibits people who are not Canadian citizens or permanent residents from buying residential properties, and it imposes a 10,000 Canadian dollars fine on anyone who breaches it. The ban aims to help ease one of the most unaffordable housing markets in the world. Who thought Canada would be one of the most unaffordable when everyone was pinpointing Silicon Valley and New York City? The average home price in Canada at the moment is 777,200 Canadian dollars, which in US dollar terms is roughly 568,000.
It's pricey.
More than 11 times the median household income after taxes.
I don't know how the housing market continues to climb worldwide while wages have stagnated for half a century. It's a joke. Eventually, you're going to run out of people who can afford houses. And then what? You're just going to force people to rent. And when they can't afford rent, you're going to put them on the street.
Isn't that already happening?
Well, yeah, that's why I can put it out step by step, because it's a really dumb solution and so short-sighted, lacking all compassion for people.
Oh.
But I don't know. I guess making a quick buck. I suppose this is a way of combating that, because often it is foreign investors that can snatch up properties and use that as a means of boosting their own capital. Maybe this could help.
Well, some have been critical of the ban, saying it is unclear what impact it will have in Canada's housing market. The housing prices were up by almost 48% since 2013. In less than a decade, it has been almost a 50% increase in housing prices, while the average household income has barely moved. It has shown an increase of roughly 9.8% from 2015 to 2020, which means that while the average income moved barely 15 to 20% over the past 10 years, the housing prices moved almost 50%. Their solution is banning foreigners from buying homes. Out of all the Canadian homes, only 6% are owned by foreigners.
So this may not be the solution.
The authorities certainly think so.
I could see it being part of it, but other initiatives could push towards affordable housing, I think. It makes no sense to have wages be so low in comparison to the inflation of housing, which that's what this really is. This is the inflation that no one likes to talk about. Everyone wants to pretend that McDonald's is going to cost $15 because somebody gets paid that much an hour. But no, why do houses cost $1.5 million that used to cost 300,000? There's no real reason. This isn't supply and demand, it's exploitation.
It's exploitation, I agree. Moving on, we have news from Egypt, where the currency has weakened more in the latest devaluation. Stephen, do you know what the currency of Egypt is?
Hieroglyphs?
It's pound, Egyptian pound. I did not know that either. So it fell as low as 27.1 to the dollar after dropping roughly 6.8% in its one of the biggest one-day moves since October. Just to throw in some perspective, a year ago, pound traded roughly in the 16 to dollar range, and now it is trading at 27.1.
That is a wild change. Not bode
And
well.
some black market dealers are even offering it at 30 to the dollar.
That's ridiculous.
See, curbing the flow of dollar pretty much chokeholds all the world economy in some way or the other.
Is that the reason
So
for this, or
one
is
of
there
part of the
other reasons?
reason it does the article does not really talk about that, but that
Okay.
has been one of the primary reasons for most of the currencies being devalued compared to dollar. Of course, Russian-Ukraine war and the oil crisis has played its part immensely with the rising energy costs. It's a very multi-layered reasoning, I feel. It's like an engine that has contributed to it, and there are a lot of moving parts of that engine.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what we get:
Yeah.
devaluation of a lot more currencies. After the central bank allowed the pound to depreciate sharply in March and October, it resumed trading and it only helped pound move up 0.1 to the dollar. Authorities have also announced that they plan to phase out restrictions on accessing dollars for imports to ease the devaluation. It is being said that the trade in the pound is thin and demand for the dollars obviously remain high as banks are facing huge backlog of orders. Pretty expected news and pretty much what's happening with most of the currencies, like even the pound sterling itself fell significantly, even reaching as low as 1.07 for a while last week, whereas beginning of last year it was trading close to 1.4 to the
Wow.
dollars. That was a steep decline. There was a while where euro was trading below dollars, which has probably never happened in the history of euro. Again, that's the international economic crisis rather than something which is typical to certain economies. Over to you, Stephen. What have we got?
I have a couple articles. First one comes from the Department of Justice in the Eastern District of New York. We're talking today about NFTs. They're a non-fungible token.
I have no
Basically,
idea what they mean.
yeah, you shouldn't know what it means. It's essentially a digital item or asset that can be sold to a specific person, and they own it because their name goes next to that code on the blockchain. It gets really hyped up by a lot of crypto bros. And here's an example of how that goes. On January 5th, a criminal complaint was unsealed in a Brooklyn federal court. This charged Aurelian Mikel, forgive me if it's wrong,
I'm
with
not gonna try.
defrauding purchasers of Mutant Ape Planet NFTs of more than $2.9 million in cryptocurrency. He was arrested on the 4th of January at JFK International Airport with his initial appearance scheduled on the 5th. Purchasers were rug pulled, which is a cryptocurrency scam in which a developer really pulls in investors, then pulls out before the project is complete, leaving those buyers of this asset with nothing but unfulfilled promises. These charges were announced by Breon Peace, the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York, Ivan J. Arvello, Special Agent in Charge from Homeland Security Investigations in New York, and Thomas Fetteruso, the Acting Special Agent in Charge from the IRS's Criminal Investigation Division, I suppose. The defendant is Aurelian Mikel, a 24-year-old French national residing in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. As alleged in this criminal complaint, Mutant Ape Planet NFTs were a digital asset stored on the Ethereum blockchain. Now, Ethereum is a cryptocurrency, much like
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. And the blockchain technology is essentially a register that says these transactions were made, and here is the owner of this NFT. So, as an NFT, each Mutant Planet NFT was unique, freely transferable, and it gave purchasers exclusive ownership over each NFT. The NFTs were marketed with promises of exclusive benefits, including opportunities for additional investments, giveaways, merchandise, and other rewards. After sending their cryptocurrency and obtaining the NFT, purchasers received nothing. Their cryptocurrency was diverted from Mutant Ape Planet NFTs project to cryptocurrency wallets controlled by the defendant, Aurelian Mikel. More than $2.9 million in cryptocurrency was diverted as a part of Mikel's scheme. Allegedly, in a social social media chat, Mikhail admitted to the fraudulent rug pull, but he blamed the NFT community and the purchasers, saying, "We never intended to rug, but the community went way too toxic." IRS CI Fataruso stated, Mikhail can no longer blame the NFT community for his criminal behavior. His arrest means that he will now face consequences for his own actions. So,
There we go.
pretty nice little response. Now, it is important to note that the charges in this complaint are merely allegations and the defendant is presumed innocent until proven guilty. What do you think about all this nonsense, AJ?
Finally, the guilty is getting captured, brought to trial. Of course, I don't really know much about Aurelian Mikel. I did like the name Mutant Ape Planet. Yeah, that was pretty interesting name. I mean, these scams are not new, right? It's just that a scam with a blockchain technology, which already people suspect so much might be happening since they're not backed by any tangible commodity. I feel like this could have detrimental effect on success of blockchain for the long run. It is one thing that seems like you cannot really have a scam with, since everything is based on algorithms, not controlled by tangible means. But this might expose some of the inadequacies of the system as well.
I think you're right. It's showing the weakness of new technology and the ways that it can be used to manipulate people and their money. NFTs, they're a hot thing for people who are really into cryptocurrency because they believe that it is the new way for property rights to be transferred, or at least digital property rights. I think that's a little overblown because we already have things like licensing and
Yeah.
copyright.
Yes.
This is kind of those things with extra steps and the addition of blockchain, which is cool. But like you said, this could slow down the adoption of the good parts of blockchain by tainting it with more criminality, as already Bitcoin is the choice of currency for a lot of criminal markets.
A lot of black market, eh?
So
Yeah.
that is a interesting and sketchy story about NFTs, which I would advise people not to invest in. Well, unless you want to lose your money. Maybe that's your
Yeah.
thing.
Oh, well, to each their own.
Next, and completely unrelated, Morocco had an earthquake earlier today on the 7th of January. There was a 5.2 magnitude earthquake off Al Hoceïma's province. The tremor took place at 9:12 in the morning GMT time. The epicenter was located in Nakor, a small town and rural commune in the Al Hoceïma province. The earthquake occurred at a depth of 21 kilometers and at the latitude of nearly 35 north and a longitude of nearly 4 west. This was reported by Morocco's National Institute of Geophysics. Now, this isn't new for this region. In particular, in Morocco's northern region, like Al Hoceïma, this province has experienced at least 4 earthquakes in a single week in 2021. And each of those earthquakes was between 3.8 and 4.7 degrees on the Richter scale.
Dang.
With the epicenter off the coast of the Drioche province. And this also is likely to be a bit unnerving on people's minds because back in 2004, a devastating earthquake struck the Al Hoceïma province, which cost the country millions of dirhams to restore normalcy. It claimed 631 lives, at least, injured nearly 1,000 people, and destroyed over 1,000 houses. So this is a scary thing, earthquakes, and not something that I think about often, despite it being very possible on the West Coast. What do you think, AJ?
I didn't really hear if there were any lives consumed. I don't think the article mentions anything about the death toll.
Well, yeah,
I know
that
it
was from
mentioned
back in 2004 as
2004,
well.
yeah, but not from the latest occurrence.
Yeah, I don't know if we have any data on if anyone was hurt or
Yeah.
the destruction. This was within the past day, really.
I feel like the region is quite used to it, so I'm pretty sure they might have measures in place, seeing how frequently it occurs.
Hmm.
Similar to Japan, right? We already know like there are volcanoes erupting there, earthquakes are a common occurrence. Most of their homes are built with wood for the same reason, because when the wood falls, the destruction caused is controllable. Al Hoceima, they might have measures in place.
Sure. Here's hoping that they recover whatever damage may have occurred.
Yes.
But that is what I have for today, trying to keep it maybe a little lighter. Back to you, Adrian.
Yeah, first article from 2023. Hopefully the year kicks off soon. It's been pretty quiet here for the past few days and still trying to get used to London.
Yeah, how is it?
Oh, it's all right. We shall see. Only time will tell.
Okay.
But hey, it was nice of you guys to catch up with us. Happy New Year to everyone. AJ and Steven bringing you news from around the globe. We'll keep doing so. Please like and subscribe and let us know your thoughts and comments. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day and the week.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.